Rob, thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. The purpose of today really was for you and I to get together because you're taking a role to market that we're going to support you with. And I think what would be really interesting for our network initially is just for you to kind of bring the trust to life a little bit, paint a picture of what's happening there, and also just to discuss your role within it, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Rob Webb. I'm the Director of Procurement at Salisbury District Hospital, but I'm also the accountable lead for the integrated care system within Bath, Swindon and Wiltshire. And that means I have responsibility for Great Western Hospitals in Swindon and also RUH Bath. All three are acute hospital providers in the region. And I am responsible for basically taking at the moment a business case forward for forming one team to provide procurement services for all three trusts, which will be known as the BSW Acute Hospital Procurement Service. So it's really exciting times within the region and within the NHS and our hospitals around the formation of this team.
Fine. And what about the projects that you've got in the pipeline for this year?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of projects and transformation initiatives ongoing within the three trusts, really. As you would expect, we've got new systems being put in place in terms of purchase to pay systems going in at Salisbury. We've got inventory management solutions being rolled out at RUH Bath and Great Western Hospitals, which is continuing the journey that they've started about 12 months ago. But also we've got some significant infrastructure projects going on across the region and lots of strategic projects around redevelopment of hospital sites. So all three sites are quite old in some respects. And so they've got an awful lot of investment in terms of improving patient flow and making better use of the estate that they have. So there is a huge amount of activity going on from that respect. So, for example, at Great Western Hospitals, we have what we call the Way Forward programme, which is all about developing a better flow through the hospital to improve ED performance, because Great Western Hospitals has historically been one of the most challenged providers nationally for ED performance and hitting their targets. Salisbury's got a huge campus development project to redevelop both key services and buildings, but also looking at a strategic healthcare campus and the opportunity to do that on the land that is adjacent to the hospital. So that's a really exciting project. And then RUH Bath has secured £450 million to completely redevelop their whole site, essentially.
Wow. Lots going on then. I guess that leads us quite nicely onto the role that you're wanting to recruit. So my understanding from our conversations, it's a brand new role, and you're wanting to look for a head of purchasing for capital expenditure and equipment. So given the infrastructure projects that you've outlined, this person will be absolutely integral to that. What are the fundamentals of the role, and what do you need the successful candidate to demonstrate?
Yeah, sure. So we're looking for somebody who's really dynamic individual to lead this capital procurement team. And as you rightly say, that they will be instrumental in getting involved in those three infrastructure projects at each of the sites. My expectation is that they will be dynamic. They will possess excellent project management skills and contract management understanding, especially in the area of construction projects, ideally, and they've got good, solid category management experience. They'll be joining a strong and driven senior team, and so I want somebody who kind of is looking for that next step from perhaps that category management role into a head of role. To do that, I'd expect them to be producing dedicated procurement strategies around the capital, understanding the considerations that need to go into that around specifics of supply market, capabilities of organisations in the market, obviously taking into account the requirement of each of the trusts, and really look at delivering an integrated approach to value delivery and risk management in these projects, because as we've kind of talked about, there's a significant amount of investment going into all three sites on this. And so good solid project management skills and the ability to understand project life cycles and be able to take an infrastructure project from the initial kind of sourcing process right the way through to the effective contract management of a contractor at the end of it will be absolutely paramount to us to make sure that we've got the right person in that role, because they will be leading a small team, but dealing with some very complex projects across the region. But also they'll become quite a key part of our senior team from the point of view that they will be contributing to the overall integrated care system procurement strategy. And so this role offers them a wide variety of experience and exposure, and also stakeholder management. So the ability to be able to write in written form a good solid business cases and contribute to that, as well as dealing with execs at lots of sites and key stakeholders at very senior levels.
Perfect. And can that experience be gained both within the private and public sector?
Absolutely, yes. I think we are more interested in the individual and their kind of skill sets in terms of the experience they've got, rather than pigeonholing it into you must have public sector experience.
Brilliant. And in terms of if somebody isn't coming with the full kind of end-to-end sourcing right through to execution experience, are there particular categories that you would have a preference over others, that they would have at least been the category manager of, that give you the comfort that they could still perform in the role?
Yeah, I think so. For me, there's probably kind of a couple of things I would say to that. I think as long as people can demonstrate an understanding of how the process works, that's critical, but can come up with some practical examples through the sourcing process of what they have led and delivered. I think that it will be absolutely paramount. But for me, there are probably 4 fundamental key deliverables which I would expect from the candidate. In terms of being able to demonstrate that they can deliver excellence in capital procurement performance, and obviously avoiding significant deviations and making sure established budgets and schedules are adhered to as best as we can. Mitigation of increased costs, so it's talking through examples of their ability to do that from the experiences that they've had. And achieving a cross-project perspective to ensure that there's sharing of best practice design, so they can talk around how they've leveraged aggregate demand and established partnerships with key suppliers. Those are the sorts of things that we are looking for, as well as that bit that I touched on earlier around the ability to look after the project life cycle from front end to back end and understand the principles of monitoring it.
Perfect. And who will work well for the trust and the organisation? You've mentioned someone dynamic, but what other background and personality traits should they possess?
Yeah, so to be fair, I'd like somebody from outside the NHS. I think it brings a fresh perspective if we can get it, but that's not to say that I would dismiss anyone from the NHS, but that blended approach and background is probably quite important to us in this role. I want somebody with energy, and that is really critical for our team because we're going through quite a transformational time within the procurement function, and the NHS is generally. We have a senior leadership team that is also very full of energy and drive, and this role will sit in it. So it's important that they complement that team, and they need to be driven and dynamic from that point of view, and resilient. I would say the NHS is, as you can imagine, has been a difficult environment to work in for a period of time. And we're coming out of it, but now we've got to hit the ground running and start to deliver on some of these projects that have been in the background for some time. They need to be a strong personality and able to influence and articulate themselves well as being comfortable writing probably quite complex business cases from that perspective. So written form of communication is important to us, and a good category knowledge and understanding, and being able to demonstrate that they can build relationships with people, and a very outward going personality that people warm to is really important to us.
Brilliant. And I guess specifically as somebody is coming from the private sector and have no kind of NHS experience before, what are the selling points for working for the trust? What's good about working there?
So I think no single day is the same. I would definitely say that if we're working in the within the NHS. I think we have a great team. We've got a great procurement culture. If you look back and do a bit of investigation into Salisbury NHS Foundation Trust, which is obviously where the procurement services are hosted from for our BSW ICS, we've won a number of awards for our procurement innovation. So I think we are always looking at doing things very differently to most of the wider NHS. And we've got a solid track record of delivering things on time and in full. And we have a lot of fun doing it, to be perfectly honest, within the team. So I think if anybody who wants to come and work within a fun and dynamic environment, this is definitely a role to consider. I think Salisbury is a brilliant part of the country, if I'm being honest, and so is the whole of Wiltshire and Bath and Swindon. There's lots of amazing places around, and the hospitals have a very, very clear vision around being very friendly and inclusive and a good place to work. And they're very proud of the fact that they score well in the NHS surveys around how they look after their workforce and value it from that perspective. So I think those are some of the key selling points for coming to work within procurement and within this procurement function.
Brilliant. And what do you offer in terms of kind of training or development opportunities for individuals?
So we've offered in the past a range of different training and progression opportunities. Really, we've always looked to develop our people, and I think it is a challenge in the NHS because for obvious reasons of budgetary constraints. But we've always found a way where our teams and individuals are willing to kind of go that extra mile of kind of wanting to do training and wanting to develop themselves. So we will sponsor some individuals through SIPs and have done, and there's a number that are going through at the moment within the teams. We've put senior leads through their masters where they've wanted to in both supply chain and procurement. But we also spend a lot of time working on our team ethos around our kind of insights profiles, how we work as individuals, and then how do we then come together and work collectively and succeed as a team. And we've also got programs across all three hospital trusts around organisational development and intervention, it's called, which is basically looking at how we as a cultural organisation across the region work more effectively together. And there's quite a large in-house programme around developing ourselves as individuals around quality improvement initiatives to support the trust as they go through quite a big transformational change across the region. So there is lots of opportunities for training and development, both in-house and out of house as well from that perspective.
Perfect. And for this level of role, just to be clear, is the expectation this person would be SIPS or MSIPS qualified for this?
Yeah, I think so. I think we would prefer somebody who's got that kind of qualification behind them and can balance that with practical examples of experience that lend themselves to taking on a role like we've got here.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rob. I think that paints a really good picture about the role. I'm really looking forward to recruiting it for you. So we will put this out onto the market, and if anybody in my network or respective networks is interested in having a conversation, then please do get in touch, hayley@procurementheads.com, or drop me a note on LinkedIn, or give me a call, 07780 043 157. Thanks very much.